This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, nerds. I'm Mark Weber, and you're listening to A Graphic Conversation, the bi-weekly podcast where we read, discuss, and recommend the best, and hopefully not the worst, in graphic novels. I am joined today, as I always am, by my good friend, the original man-child, Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And this time, we read Why the Last Man, Volume 3, One Small Step. And I think we enjoyed it because we always enjoy Why the Last Man. But we're going to get to that, so don't worry. How you doing today, Ricky?
I am enjoying myself. Like you said, I did enjoy this one, and I cannot wait to get in and talk about it.
It's going to be fun, and we will do that. But let me first tell you a little bit about how all this works. But before I even do that, let me tell you some important information about Most Valuable Podcasts. So you can go to patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast, and you can get your episodes of A Graphic Conversation a week before they air on the YouTube channel. You also get an exclusive Patreon-only podcast and some other really cool things up there as well, and you just help support us. Head to mostvaluablepodcast.com to check out cool things there and to see the store where you can get yourself an MVP t-shirt just like I'm wearing.
I was looking at it during the onside kick that you and I recorded today.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking across at your shirt while we did, and I'm like, man, that looks slick.
It's a nice t-shirt. If you wouldn't mind heading to like Apple Podcasts, iTunes, whatever you want to call it, give us a 5-star review, assuming that you want to give us a 5-star review, and let people know why they should listen to A Graphic Conversations and do of any of the other podcasts you might listen to as well, maybe the Rick and Johnny podcast, things like that. And then, of course, you know, the obvious stuff, like, share, subscribe, tweet at us, at Most Valuable Pod, at the Mark Weber, at Ricky Widmer, all that fun stuff. Don't forget to do it and let us know what you think down below. But the way this podcast works, we're in a spoiler-free section right now. We're going to talk about this. Then we will warn you before we get into the spoiler zone. You're not going to have read this if you didn't want to. It's cool if you did want to do that and you want to be part of the conversation in that way. But if you're fine with just listening and enjoying knowing what we think, that's cool. Be here for it. So, expectations coming into Why the Last Man.
Well, I mean, this one is just like the one that we just read in Morning Glories, where it's a series and we're not jumping right in. So we can actually have some concrete expectations. And first off, the thing I like, and I don't think this is a spoiler, I'm going to say it anyways, one of our biggest criticisms like a Morning Glories was, damn it, I got to read the last one just a little bit to see what was going on. Not in this one. It gives you a little
summary.
A one-page actual text, not like comic style, but actual text of like, hey, we're going to catch up from the very beginning to now. One-page summary. And then after that, I was like, oh, all right, I'm good to go.
And I think I probably should have looked this up before, and I'm not going to bother. I don't think there's Why the Last Man single issues. Why the Last Man, I think, is just graphic novels because it's not issue 1 through 5, it's chapters 1 through 5. So I think it's an actual, like a genuine graphic novel, not a collection of single issues. And that certainly helps with that. And I agree with you. That's awesome. I love that. I mean, I've said it on this podcast a million times. Single issues annoy me because I have to tune in every month. I want a graphic novel. Tell me a concrete story, a beginning and an ending. And that's something that when we compare it to something like Morning Glories, something I like about Why the Last Man is I have some questions, of course, but, you know, I feel like I have a good grasp on the questions that I have. I feel confident that a lot of my questions will be answered. And I love what we're doing. You compared it very well, of course, with saying it's like an AMC show, like The Walking Dead.
And by the way,
like that.
I did look it up. It does have single issues because it says the schedule was because this ran.
Well, they do a good job making it feel very compact.
Well, this one ran between September of 2002 and March of 2008.
Okay,
and it was monthly between issues 1 and 55. and then it was bi-monthly 56 through 60.
So they do a good job still making it feel like a legitimate graphic novel in that case. But like you said, this whole one small step felt like maybe a couple episodes of a TV show.
Well, not just that. Like, the first thought I had while reading through this was maybe like halfway through, 75% through, was I kind of had the thought like, wow, this is kind of a better version of The Walking Dead. Like, not exactly. Like, it's
the TV show, not the comic.
I would say either or.
Oh, both. Okay.
Like, and the reason why is mainly the TV show, because with the comics, I just fell off after a certain point.
Same for
which
me.
We'll get back onto that. We've got to bring that back in for a graphic conversation at one point, even if it's one issue. But the thing that I look at is the reason why I say that is, this doesn't have to do with zombies, but it's post-apocalyptic, where in this one, it's just, like it says in the title, why the last man? He's the last man. And this is the world that we're kind of living in. And I just was, I'm like, I am just more enticed in this story than I am for any Walking Dead as of late, because like I haven't watched since season 5, and there's a reason for that. It was the same thing over and over and over. And I didn't get that with this.
And part of me can see where, like, I mean, we're only in volume 3, where, like, maybe this formula could get repetitive. You know, we're not in spoiler mode yet, so I won't say why. Maybe people will feel that the formula is going to be repetitive, like The Walking Dead. That's my opinion with The Walking Dead, is that no matter what, nothing was ever going to change.
I will say this, although I don't remember number 2, like, every single detail, because we read it a long time ago, I don't think I don't remember having the same satisfaction after reading 2 that I did reading this one. Like, this one I got to the end and I was like, wow, that was really good. Like, if this was an episode of a TV show, I would be satisfied. Not more like a TV show we see now, but it almost reminded me of like, wow, this could have been like a cartoon episode that I watched as a kid.
And they do a very good job with pairing these. That's a complaint I've had of quite a few things that we've read.
Issue to issue.
Yeah, where it's like, that was a small story, volume 2, where they were in that town. Now, this is a small story where we are trying to find these astronauts that are coming down.
And it doesn't seem like the story drags at all. Like, it's not like, oh, we're in this town for 2 graphic novels, or we're not in there for too long. It's like, oh, this is self-contained. It got all wrapped up by the end. All right, we're moving on as they move on their journey to the next place.
Was it a little predictable? Yes.
A little bit.
It definitely was.
We'll get into some of the parts that it's bad. Like, when you predict things, I don't think it's bad because you're really good at that.
Yeah.
But if I'm catching on to stuff and I'm predicting things, then you're too predictable.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe the one negative of this one, was that it did feel very predictable. So you don't get as much satisfaction, but you don't necessarily want them to throw out just nonstop twists for the sake of keeping everybody on their toes. You know? And it's also, this isn't George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
Where you're going to sit there.
Game of Thrones.
You know, exactly. I mean,
however, to bring in Game of Thrones, this is more adult than I remembered it being.
Yeah. I actually think it's funny with having, I feel like reading Game of Thrones, or I guess just watching the show when they still followed the books, it kind of ruins you a little bit to certain things. Because
I've never read the book.
Reading the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, there's a certain part in the first one, The Way of Kings, where there's this big battle, and I'm like, and there was an actual thought in my head that was, if this was George R.R. Martin, all these people are about to die. Did they die? Nope. They all survived, but because they have plot armor, you know. But
armor.
But if it was George R.R. Martin, I'm like, every one of those bastards is dead right now. But anyways, you know, that's the kind of thing we shouldn't expect it to be like that, because that's not why The Last Man necessarily is.
Yeah.
Now we talk about the expectations, but for those of the people who are sitting here and they haven't read this yet, you know, we'll talk about should they read it later, but who is someone who Why the Last Man is for?
Well, the first and foremost, if you like post-apocalyptic anything, pick this up.
Yeah.
Because it just plays into that post-apocalyptic world, and it plays into that genre very well. Also, if you're a guy who, like for me, I like graphic novels that reference things from my everyday life. Like we had, I'm going to spoil some stuff, but it's not a lot. Like Uric in this one, there was one line where he mentioned Superman. There was another line where he goes, whoa, who are you, a Batman villain? And like when you reference that real world connection, it brings me into it because you're kind of setting it in my real world and not setting it in a fantasy world that I have no connection to.
And I think that's something, too, with that, and you kind of bring it up a little bit. When you like that kind of witty humor, because Yorick is a witty character.
It's very adult, too.
Yeah.
It's very adult.
He's a smart character. He's going to make you laugh. It's entertaining. It's lighthearted, but you still have a little bit of that groundedness.
And it also, like, maybe because I feel like for a college student or someone out of college, they would get like one of the jokes, because like one of the jokes he mentions is like, all right, now this might be my liberal studies degree talking, where if I'm in high school, all right, like
I don't get what that means.
But if you're in college and like or out of college, it's like, yeah, degrees don't mean anything.
Especially when it's liberal studies, right? Just very, very general. You know, and that there's all that. So for sure, it's fun. It's fun. It's post-apocalyptic.
It connects with the reader.
Yeah, it's a good time for sure.
Plus, the characters are written well.
Yeah, they are. And we're going to see a little bit of where certain ones of those characters go, because right now there's some question marks about what's going to happen with some of them. So we're going to see a little bit more of that coming up in the future. You know, when it comes to the artwork on this one, it looks good for what it is. It's not necessarily
nothing like, oh my God, this is blowing me out of the water.
Exactly.
But it doesn't distract from the story. Yeah.
It fits. It's not distracting. You don't have trouble following what's happening.
It's not like, whoa, this is weird. Like, it would be different if this art style was like Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Where it just wouldn't fit.
Exactly. Or like, you know, The Walking Dead, where it's all black and white. That fits that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't fit this because the humor is different.
I usually like color anyways.
It's easier, right? And you can actually understand what's going on. But with that all being said, we're going to get into spoiler mode in just a second. So if you do want to read this, remember, you don't have to. But if you do want to read it, hit pause, but just not yet. We'll be going in there and we'll be talking and spoiling everything and ruining all of it. So if you do want to read this, hit pause now. So, Ricky, welcome to the spoiler zone. We are here. If you hit pause and you have now unpaused, I'm glad that you read it because it's fun. But if you didn't want to read it, that's perfectly okay. Let's talk about something fun. There's prostitutes in this now. And the cool thing is Ricky didn't understand that she was a prostitute.
I didn't, and I should have, because there's the line where she goes, so you got a girlfriend, or are you a working girl like me? I just read it and went right through it. I was just like, oh, she's just trying to be a dude.
She works hard for the money.
No, I was just like, oh, she's trying to be a dude that's just like how she works. And then I was like, I'm stupid. That went right over my head when it shouldn't have. The thing that I liked most about it is when she goes like, seriously, your lady's lucky to have someone as dedicated as you. Bind those breasts a little tighter and you'll almost be passable. And then he like looks, he goes, oh, am I starting to get some man titty?
Am I getting fat right now? It's just things like that are kind of nice touches to make the world feel real. You know, I mean, those are such good things to have as the reader, that the writer can put in there of like, hey, this is a real place. That's a person who has adapted to and adjusted to this world and what has been set up.
That has changed.
Exactly, because it has very much changed, and you know, we don't need to talk about everybody's sexuality and stuff like that on the show, but that is something that would happen.
Like I said in non-spoiler mode, this comic references adult things. Yeah. Like, and that's one of them. Another one is just the language that it uses, and I will leave it at that and let you find out when you read it.
And if not, I mean, the language, you should be able to understand that pretty easily. The other thing is, literally, there is either a threesome or polygamous relationship that happens between with characters as well.
Like, that's one where
they're not afraid.
And I'll get to it, where that was a predictable moment to where I was like, when she was like, women and children, I was like, she's pregnant. Yeah. She's pregnant. And then they said it, but it's like, that was one where I was like, whoa, all right. Having, like, basically trading off, like, here we go, one with you, because
everybody's
even when she's
lonely.
like, even when she's like, who's the father? And she goes, I don't know.
She loved them both.
I don't know which is the father.
I love them both so much.
You could even see like they drew the look on her face like that scared, like, I don't know who the father is. I wish I did.
I don't think it, I actually didn't take it as that. I took it more of she was just grieving that
they were dead.
Two men that she loved equally have just both died. She doesn't care whose kid it is. These men have both died.
Because it's her kid.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be, it's actually probably easier for her that they're dead in a way because there's not going to be any fighting between the two of them over that.
Could you imagine if they lived and what kind of drama would have happened if it's like, it's my kid, not your kid?
Speaking of The Walking Dead, Shane baby. But yeah, I mean, for sure.
Judy.
Yeah, it's stupid. The show tried to keep that baby around. But anyways.
The comic did it right, man.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it there.
Yeah.
It's just an inconvenience storytelling-wise. We'll talk about the predictability, first of all. As soon as I remembered that, oh, that's right, this is the plot. The plot is this. There are these...
What do you mean by that?
Astronauts. Well, let me get to the plot.
Okay.
The plot is there's these astronauts, and there's two men and a woman, and they're going to come crashing down. The Russian government knows where they're coming. They want to get their man back to their town. Because the whole theme here is, you know, if you have the man who's alive or a man, you dominate the future. Because you can populate. You can repopulate, and you can just wait till everybody else dies, and you conquer. Or wait till they're weak. So with this, that's why they're all trying to meet here, essentially. And there's that theme for that. Yorick's big thing is he doesn't want the responsibility. That's coming up again. We've seen it before. He doesn't want to be like his sister and his mom who take on as much responsibility as possible. He is the complete opposite. I say it's predictable because as soon as I remembered that, oh, that's right, there are other men that are coming down, I knew this is called Why the Last Man. There is no possible way either one of those two astronauts survive. No matter what way it is, they for sure are dead.
But let me throw this out there. And this is, obviously, we don't think about this until after she said she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a situation of like, all right, we want there to be that one kind of conflict of like, all right, now there's two.
Yeah.
Is this a way of them going, you know what, I don't want that to be right now, so let's kill these two off. The baby then will be a boy, and we'll deal with that later on.
I could definitely see the baby being a boy because there needs to be something in the future.
Because like that at the end reminded me, that's where I very much got the Walking Dead vibe of like, hey, we just went on this episode together. Don't worry, I'll stay here with these guys.
Yeah.
The main group goes on, and then we might see you later. We might come back to this group later.
A big thing with this too, and what Yorick was talking about, is hope. He was talking about, this one was about hope. He had hope that these men existed. The Israelis had hope that they could get this other man. Russians had hope that they have a man alive. You know, everybody has hope. So I wouldn't be surprised if the thing we find out at the very end is that she's pregnant. It's that hope. It's a hope baby. It can easily be a man. They're kind of foreshadowing that a little boy, if it can survive.
Or how devastated they'll be if it's a girl.
And they made that big point of this. There's this chamber where the outside world, that whatever illness or whatever won't affect it. So this woman and her baby will not be exposed to it. So there's that big kind of, if it's a boy, can we trust that we can bring him out? Or do we have to keep him here? And there's that dilemma later.
Well, not just that, like the timeline though of that, like that baby, the timeline to actually make that baby worth something, and that sounds terrible, but like worth the population
as a part of the plot,
thing is going to take longer than just the 9 months. Like the 9 months in the actual time is like, oh, that's how much time you need to find out if it's a boy or a girl. But really, they would have to wait, like, what? Like, maybe 16 to 18 years for that then kid to actually help with what their goal is, which you're do right now.
Without being gross, this is completely scientific. Probably like 13, 14 years.
Oh, I know. Like, it just depends on, yet again, post-apocalyptic, what are the rules now? society completely thrown out of the window? We don't have to get into that, but it's something
I would think
to
so.
think about. Like,
yeah, I would think
throw it
that
out
they
the
would.
window. Our main goal is population.
And that's the kind of thing, too, with knowing that, there was, 50 some, maybe 60 issues of, we're probably not going to get to that. We're probably not going to get to that point, and that's probably a good thing.
The kid could just be a girl, and boom, Urich's the last man still.
Yeah, exactly. With, of course, we're disrespecting Ampersand, the monkey, who's also a boy. So, yeah, there's that part to it, for sure. And I think that when it comes to this, the one thing that disappointed me a little bit was the predictability in the sense that I knew those guys were going to die. So this whole issue, even though I enjoyed it, it was nice. There was character development and all that good stuff, and we learned important things about the antagonists, which we'll get to later. But when we got to the end and they died,
say it was a waste.
It's not that it's a waste, but I felt almost, I'm just trying to think of the right way to say it. I felt disappointed that it was like all this amounted to nothing.
See, maybe I was on the opposite side of that. I didn't feel disappointed because to me, it would have been cool to have them be alive. All right, we're going to keep you here.
Yeah.
We are now going to move on. Basically, it's instead of the baby, we're keeping you guys here caged up, basically.
Kind of. And it's a lesson learned.
Or if one of them would have survived and it would have been the non-Russian one that survived, because it would have been a similar thing. But to me, I feel like this episode or this issue was basically, like you said, all about hope.
Yep.
But then also to me, and I'll just throw it out there, it added questions, like you said, about the antagonist. Because we know the Israeli in this one where it was Alter. She was bad. She wanted to basically look out for like her own people. She would do anything necessary to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas Sadie was more like, hey, or Sadie was more like, hey, you know what? We're not going to have ranks. We're like the good person behind it that was basically being suppressed by the not so good person.
Yeah.
And the thing that they threw out that made me question, and I don't know if it should, but when the Israelis were talking to Urich's mom.
Yep.
And Urich's mom mentions the Culper ring. Yep. And the Culper ring is, they have an agent there, 355, 355. I looked at it and I'm like, so all right, who's the bad guy? Is it the Israelis?
Exactly.
Or were the Israelis like, hey, we are basically a contractor here. We're now going to take it. And basically it's that kind of movie trope of, you know what? Bad mob boss brings in this unrelated guy. Unrelated guy takes what he wants and goes, nah, you know what? I'm not giving him to you.
Yeah.
Because I got to look out for myself. Maybe I can get a little bit more.
Exactly.
Or is the bad guy 355? Is the bad guy Urich's mom? Because at the end, she's like, Hope? We don't even know. Is there a connection between her and Hope? Or is that a first thing like, oh my God, you're alive? Or Hero.
Yeah.
Oh my God, are you alive?
That's Urich's sister.
Was it, oh my God, you're alive? Or was that a hero? Like, why am I seeing you again? And they know each other exists.
The interesting thing, too, is the fact that, I mean, it's her daughter, is the fact that Hero was imprisoned. She was put in the prison in Volume 2, at the end of Volume 2.
So how'd she get
out? So she got out. I mean, you're supposed to have these questions right now about who the actual villain is, and maybe part of that is the idea that, well, kind of, it's ambiguous. It's kind of gray. This is what a post-apocalyptic world is. You're not going to have a sure thing. Everybody's intentions can be questionable. The Israelis were essentially mercenaries that were hired, but at the same time, they're looking out for their people. The Russians, sure, the Russians are working. Well, the Russian person is working with these main heroes at the moment, but if she had to, she was prepared to do whatever it took to get her guy back, her astronaut, her cosmonaut back to Russia, without a doubt. The Culper ring, I'm not convinced that they really are bad, or we're going to find out. Or we're going to find out, I think, that maybe 355 is working on her own kind of thing. Like, she knows that they're bad, but she's kind of split away from them a little bit, maybe.
Side question. Do you think she really loves him? Because
No.
Well, because we got that thing from issue 2 where while she was asleep, she kind of said it. Now she says it now is like, oh no, I was just like, it really played off of like, then you talk about predictability.
Yeah.
Should I believe what they're saying? Or are they playing into that trope of like, oh, they said it while they were asleep. Ooh, they need it to use it to their advantage, but then play it off. Like that, I feel like with the predictability of this, she may really love him, but can't because he is hung up on his girl in Australia.
Who may or may not be alive.
We don't know. We got to find out.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I completely believe that. I don't really right now. I'm willing to be wrong on it.
Which I know
I don't believe it
we've had this conversation. If I'm Yurik, I know you love her, but
I'm assuming she's gone.
Not even that. How are you going to get to her?
Yeah.
How are you going to get to her?
Well, the Israelis got to America.
Exactly. But how is he going to get his hands on that
boat?
That capability?
Yeah, whatever he needs
capability.
To get there.
The odds are very not in his favor to get from California, when they get to San Francisco, to get from there to Australia.
So here's a fun thing. When we're talking about future stuff that might happen. So this baby, the dad could be American, the dad could be Russian. So that's setting up a nice conflict.
Do you think it's Russian? Natalia wants to take it back to Russia.
It doesn't necessarily matter because there's no way for them to really know whose baby it is at this point. Those guys are dead.
But I mean, the thing that...
But what I'm saying is I think the conflict is being set up for when that baby gets born, she stayed there for a reason.
To take the baby with her.
She's taking that baby back.
Well, and here's the thing that I want to throw out as kind of like maybe an artist depiction of why they made the American astronaut an African American is because, all right, when it's time to decide whose baby it is,
we're going to be able to look.
We're going to be able to tell by the skin color. If it comes out mulatto, basically, all right, it was the American. If it comes out with no hints of African American, all right, it's the Russian. Like, I feel like part of that artist choice might have been deliberately done in that case.
I'm sure
to
it was
make
an
that
author
easier.
choice. I'm sure the writer specifically said.
Either a writer, or it could have been in some case where the writer just writes it, and then the artist maybe...
The artist wouldn't have made that decision on their own.
Well, it depends. Sometimes it's different. The writer most likely.
A big decision like that, an artist would not have made that decision.
Most likely than the writer.
Yeah.
But the point is, it was pre-dedicated that
exactly.
That was
it's they know whose baby it is, I'm guessing. Yeah. And maybe the author intentionally knows that, no, we're not going to be able to tell whose baby it is. You know, that could be a thing too. Whatever, way they decide to go with it. But yeah, I think that there is a distinct reason why the Russian spy, agent, whatever you want to call her, decided, I'm going to stay here. I am choosing to be here with all my weapons that I just stole. I'm going to be here where the baby's at.
I am bringing those and the baby back.
Exactly. And we'll do whatever I need to make it happen. And they're leaving. So she easily can do that. Yeah, so I definitely think that'll kind of be a thing. What would you say was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment of this was basically, first off, I like the give and take between Yurik and the Israelis, mainly when he was captive and she had the cuffs around him. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, I did my homework. You're an escape artist. And he's like, that's where he gives the line like, you're telling me, you taunt me with these? Were you a Batman villain or something? Yeah. Like, that was a good give and take between him and her. But also, I really did like I like the overall arc of with the mom. Because I'm like, it's the mom that, like, my whole thing is, who is the bad guy in this? And the thing I can't wait, and it's a great cliffhanger, is when I went back to look at it at the end, the mom's face looks like shocked and says, Hero? So I'm assuming she didn't know Hero was alive. Hero has obviously shown up because it's like, all right, it is time to find my brother and kill him. You're going to help me.
She wants to get the revenge.
You know where he's going. I need to find out from you.
I do agree that I think my favorite thing about this really was the kind of ambiguity of who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Yep. Kind of thing. Or not necessarily who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, but like who's the main bad guy. We really don't know.
Because the whole thing is that plays into it is like you said, the Israelis wanted Uruk for something. The mom wants Uruk.
Everybody
for
has their own.
Everyone has
motivation.
their own motive for what they want with the last man, and really, it kind of begs the question: is it Uruk's choice at all?
Yeah.
Or is he just a pawn in this game that we are reading and we are going along the ride for?
You didn't read the last thing. We're not going to talk about the last thing that much, but with the monkey and the play.
Did
There's this thing at the end.
Because I asked you, I'm like, does it matter if I read it? And you said no.
It doesn't matter. There's this thing at the end. This group of women who are in a play find Ampersand the monkey, and they're like, wow, it's a boy monkey. That's so weird. It gives them the idea to put on this play where there's one last man, and essentially the play, at the end of the play, Yorick asks, when Yorick and his group, disguised, come to get the monkey back by saying, this monkey's going to kill you all if you keep it, so we're taking him back. And they do tell them, like, oh, no, it's not a boy, it's both, you know, and they're like, oh, okay. But anyways, he asks, how does it end? Your play, how does it end? And they tell him, well, all the women want this guy, and they kill him. They end up killing him, and they kind of ruin their chance to repopulate.
Because everyone's like, oh, I want him for myself. I want him for myself. And then...
Which is kind of a nice... And that's the only thing that I think is relevant is this foreshadowing of, hey, everyone does want Yorick to himself.
Like, my question is, did this really happen?
Oh, yeah, it really happened.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's essentially...
I just then don't...
You watched Avatar, right?
No.
Oh, well then, for the fans of that, the Last Airbender,
I was like, yeah, no.
If you watch Korra, it's essentially that episode where everybody's in Ba Sing Se doing their own thing, and there's no reason why this episode moves any plot forward, but you learn
I just think it's weird to just throw that in at the end.
Because, I mean, it's a little bit of a step aside. I'm sure it has something to do with the single issues when those came out. But you learn a little bit more, and it's one of those things where it helps the world feel real. You get to see what else is going on. There's literally a woman who is commissioning a play from these people. She wants them to put on a soap opera because she misses her soap operas. You know, things like that. It helps the world feel real. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. It's probably a lower point in the whole thing, besides that last minute where Yorick asks, how does it end? My least favorite thing of this, I would probably say, is just simply the fact that from the very beginning, I knew exactly what was going to happen. You got a least favorite?
Well, for me, I mean, my least favorite would... I don't know if I do. I mean, the predictability to me didn't really hit at all. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I have a least favorite. I'll put it that way.
Well, then I bet...
I didn't really think it that way.
Then I bet you're going to have a good recommendation. Should people read this?
Yes. No, you should. But you got to read 1 and 2 first, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, you don't.
You don't really have to, but it helps.
Because it's got the summary, but like if you want
I would
to know,
recommend reading the whole thing.
I would recommend reading volumes 1 and 2 first, but yeah, I would definitely read this. Like I said, if you like post-apocalyptic, if you're a Walking Dead fan, this is going to be right up your alley.
Yeah.
If you like things that read like either like a cartoon episode or like a AMC series.
We are getting to the point where we can kind of have theories and stuff like that too, which is kind of fun.
Like the whole baby thing, or like I'll ask you, when they get to San Francisco, are they going to find their answer? Probably not, but like what's going to happen when they get to San Francisco?
I think there's going to have to be in the future a choice made by Yorick of, do I try to seek out this girl? I don't think we're ever going to see her.
The one from
I'm really
Australia.
thinking, we're going to have this. I continue?
We saw her in episode 1.
Yeah, at the very beginning, before post-apocalyptic world.
So we've seen
I think
her.
we're going to have a choice where he's going to make the choice of yes or stay here and keep doing things, maybe help my friends or whatever it might be.
And will that love turn into him and Agent 355?
355, you never know. Anything that we missed? Anything else you want to say?
No, I can't really say that there is. I can't wait to... Like the thing that this thing did the best at the end was that cliffhanger of like hero, and it's like, damn it, you made me want to pick up the next one.
Yep, it's definitely good. They got me still. Why the Last Man is definitely a lot of fun.
It's not a Morning Glories for you, but you got to check out than Morning Glories episodes.
Well, I really loved Morning Glories for a while, but I mean, we've gotten pretty far into it, and it's kind of lost me.
They're not running in circles,
but they're completely different styles and stuff like that. Speaking of different styles, we're really going to go in a different direction for our next one.
For the next three, basically.
But
it's superheroes.
Specifically talking about the next one because I'm going to read the description of it.
All right.
Ant-Man, Volume 1, Second Chance Man. Scott Lang has never exactly been the world's best superhero. Heck, most people don't even think that he's the best Ant-Man.
Ooh.
And the last guy invented Ultron and joined the Masters of Evil. So that's saying something. But when Superior Iron Man calls with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and an old enemy returns, sort of, Scott's going to get the chance to turn it all around and be the hero he's always dreamed of being. That's right, Ant-Man's starting a new life, a bold new adventure, and you know what that means? It means that he needs to borrow some money. So, Ant-Man, Second Chance Man, it'll be a fun one, I'm sure. If you are into superheroes, definitely, but make sure you head to patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast so you can get it even earlier than everybody else. You can also get exclusive podcasts from us on MVP. Check out mostvaluablepodcast.com so you can see the website, everything going on. You can get yourself an MVP t-shirt. You can also hit that subscribe button, that like button, comment down below if we missed anything, if we were just plain wrong, if you're excited. Let us know what you want us to read in the future. But, of course, also make sure you go into iTunes or anywhere where you rate your podcast. Give us 5 stars and tell people why they should read it. And, of course, at Ricky Widmer, at the Mark Weber, at Most Valuable Pod. We'll see you in 2 weeks when we read Ant-Man Volume 1, Second Chance Man.